Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 6th ever episode of Saturn's Rants. I'm your host, Saturn the Protogen, and I found this world a bit ago. I put it into my favorites list because, that's what I do with worlds that I want to check out later because I didn't have time. And I wasn't originally planning on doing my rant tonight, but as soon as I joined in here, I realized that I couldn't resist. Because this is probably the most beautiful VR chat world I have ever seen. And I'm lagging a little bit, if you couldn't tell from that. But, the most beautiful VR chat world I have. And this is just a taste of it. If you want to see it for yourself, it's called Carried Precipice by Carl Cronin. It's genuinely beautiful. So I highly recommend. And this avatar is an avatar made by Sponge. It is a Patreon only avatar, so you'll have to subscribe to their Patreon to get a code to unlock the avatar, but it's very good one nonetheless. So, obviously, recently, with my whole switch from SC Purple Skull to Saturn and Protogen, I, some point between those times, came out as a furry, right? But a little bit before then, I also came out as agender. And around Pride Month, I was planning on doing an SC's rant where I discussed my experience coming out and being a part of the LGBT community. That was before I'd actually come out as a furry, so now it's going to be a thing of I talk about furry and LGBT. Little bit of mix match of one. And I know I planned it in June, I'm making it in August. But we had episode 5 to fill in the wait, and an episode of Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. I'm going to turn down this music for myself, because I can barely hear myself think the music is beautiful. But for something like this, I do want to be able to hear myself. So, there we go. But, so today I'm going to be discussing my experience coming out and being part of the furry and LGBTQ community. So, I first realized I was part of LGBT ages ago. I don't even remember how long. I want to say 5-6 years ago. Somewhere when I was around 12 to 13. So yeah, 5-6 years. I came out as asexual because I realized I had never the thought of having sex was just pretty uncomfortable with me, right? And of course I came out to my mom. The lucky thing is with my family is my direct family. So my sibling and my mom, at the very least. I also have a little brother, but I'm not really including him with this because he's straight. But those two, my sibling and my mom, are also part of the LGBT community. The reason why I'm saying sibling is because they are gender fluid. And my mom, I believe, is... I want to say bi. She's bisexual. So when I came out as asexual, my mom kind of was just like, yeah, I thought so. So she already expected it. So instead of, the amount of conversations I've had with people where they were talking about, their difficulties and not having supportive families, I've never been able to properly relate. Of course, I've been able to sympathize, but I've never been able to properly relate to that struggle. Because I got lucky. And especially with asexual in particular, because sure, well, being gay, as well, but, if they were hoping on having grandkids, at least through me, that's just not happening with me being asexual. Even being gay, you could possibly adopt. Well, same thing with asexual. Until I continue forward and stop digging myself this pit, where I also came out as aromantic later. I didn't realize it myself until I think the exact incident that made me really realize was just the fact that I, my freshman year, I was walking in the hallways. I think it was right after my biology class. Some girl had been like, "Hey, do you want to be my boyfriend?" And I was immediately like, "Nope," and I just kept on walking. And I was just like, "Huh, I've never really had a crush or anything. Wonder why that is." And sorry, I just realized that there is an area in this world that I haven't explored that I'm going to after this recording. But so yeah, I actually no, that's the spawn. Sorry about that. ADHD brain. But so I came out as full Aro-Ace, and so one thing, if you're Aro-Ace or asexual, you've probably heard this said to you before. People being like, "Oh, you'll find the one," as if instead of it being like, for me, it's not because of any kind of trauma with past relationships or anything. It was just I don't feel the attraction. But I know that for a lot of people, it is due to some kind of trauma response. But like some people will say that, be like, "Oh, you'll find the one," as if it's not for reasons out of like, as if we're actively choosing to be aromantic or asexual, which usually we're not. And people will say that, or like my grandma was like, "Oh, you're young, you'll grow out of that." No, that's not happening. But that was the only really negative experience coming out, I'd say. But I've been a part of the community for a while now. I've gone to many Pride events, of course, with people that are going against Pride community. I forget the exact term for them at the moment, but rioters. People that'll just hold up signs and be a general nuisance, but that's mainly the LGBTQ part of things. I'm just Aro-Ace. And I just forgot that I'm not just that, but that's coming up in a second. I just completely forgot the new one. The new part of my LGBTQ. But, so I guess, I'm trying to think. I came out as Agender before I came out as a furry, so we'll start off with that, and then furry will be a bit more of a story. So Agender, with Pride Month, it was a couple days before Pride Month that I really started to think about it. But I remember being at work and just being like, I've never really cared about my gender identity, have I? Because it's like, I don't care how masculine or feminine I actually come off. Like recently, I've had buzz cuts pretty much all my life, and just recently this year, I was just like, it's been 17 years, I'm gonna let it grow out. And just seeing my hair being longer was just like, huh, I like that. And I was really thinking about it, and I've never cared about my masculinity. Ever. So it was just, I think, a week period of me being like, am I actually non-binary or agender or whatever? But like, once I did figure that out, my mom, once again, when I did come out, like it was after work, I remember, because I made the decision at work because I was, I work at a pizza place, so I was on the oven, taking pizzas out of the oven, so I had a bit of time to think. Because when you're making the pizzas, you're kind of doing your thing and not really being able to think all that much other than work. But like when you're on the oven, it's kind of mundane, so you don't really think about what you're doing all that much. So I was thinking about it a lot, and okay, I need to sit down after that. Oh my god. Okay, so you've ever used a Mayu VR chat, Abby, which is pretty much a cat avatar. If you pull on its tail, it does that hissing sound effect, and I accidentally grabbed the tail, and with it being as loud as it was, that scared the ever-living crap out of me. Oh my god. I'm sorry, I've had a lot of accidental off tangents today. My mind is kind of everywhere. But oh my god, that actually scared the bejesus out of me. Wow. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah. So my mom was picking me up from work because with our schedules, I haven't been to actually get my license yet because I haven't had the time to practice on the road. So she was coming to come get me from work, which sometimes I also have a delivery driver bring me home, which is not what I did tonight. But so I get in the car, and about halfway through the drive, I mentioned, "Hey, I'm agender," right? And my mom, being the way my mom is, again, didn't really even question it because like she kind of expected it, and instead of questioning me at all, she took the fact that I'm also Aro-Ace and asked if I was an alien because a romantic, a sexual, a gender, alien, and she weirdly kind of got it right, and I'll explain that for more reasons later. But yeah, so she's just been supportive, and with me coming out as a gender, Saturn, this will also play into the furry bit later. Saturn has kind of become my actual name. Like my old name is dead name. Like as of like I think 2 weeks ago is when I decided to make the change. 2 weeks ago, my Saturn. My username isn't just Saturn Progen just because it's a cool name. Saturn is my name now. IRL, and it's actually once I become 18, I can actually make that official. So, like, coming out as agender and being able to change my name so quickly, it's not. You may think that it was a bit of a rush decision. It really wasn't. I feel like this was a long time coming. But, mentioning the furry part, it does come in with the furry part, but I do want to start that section out with the beginning, which I hadn't really been exposed to any like furry media before I was 16. Anytime before then, I knew of the existence of furries, but very vaguely. I didn't really have any negative thoughts against them by any means. It was just they exist. Again, being part of the LGBTQ community, I've kind of grown this ideal that, like, if you're not hurting anyone, then there's not really any issues. Like, if you're not hurting me, and you're not hurting anyone else, why judge? And that's kind of how it is with the furry community. Why judge a community that is just doing a hobby? So I never really had any preconceptions of furries. And it was after I was 16 specifically, because the Christmas of the year that I became 16, so that would be 2 years ago, so 2023. Yeah, 2023, I got my Quest 2. And I think you can see where this is going. VR chat. VR chat was my first real exposure to furries. A group that I've been a part of for a while, and I did take like a 7-month break. but I came back just recently, named Val Raven's Creation Hub. Very good group. You should check them out. Was the first group that I actually found that had furries in it. So before then, it was February that I found Val's for the first time. And before then, I had just been going to public instances and finding new friends. So I did have a good chunk of friends that I don't talk to any of them anymore, unfortunately. I haven't seen them in ages. But I did have a good group of friends. But I mentioned going to public instances. So on this particular night, I wanted to go to a public has-been instance. So I do so. It says 20 or 30 people. A lot of people in this instance, right? But I load in and see no one. And being a bit confused by that, I look around the place. And with this particular has-been world, there is a stage room. Like a big stage where people can come perform. There's a bar next to it. That's where everyone was. I walk into that room and I hear Val himself, a friend of mine, singing Noel's Lament. And it was a performance night. So after him, someone else went up on the stage and they sung, and then someone else, and then someone else. And I thought that was really cool. I'd never seen anything like that, where, and in VR chat anyways, where people would actually get together and do performances. So I was immediately hooked. I joined the group that night and started joining it a lot. Something that we had realized with fandoms, that I'm not going to get too much into this, but we as a group, I'm saying we because I was there at the very beginning of the group. It has 1,500 members now, and I was there during like the first 60. So that's why I'm saying we. But we realized that the community that we were tied to at the time, being has-been in Helluva, the Helliverse, the fandom can be very toxic at times, and we realized that we kind of wanted to disconnect from that. And when we ended up into a different fandom. Because Val himself started using furry avatars. And just so happened, the group started being part of the furry fandom. And I myself, even before then, I had started finding avatars that were furry avatars to be really comfortable for me. Like, I would wear them. I wouldn't really like wearing them because they were really comfortable and they looked cool. So I started wearing furry avatars myself. And that's really where me starting to become a furry started. Me wearing furry avatars in VR chat. I know that mentioning Val's was a bit of a longer process, but like Val's introduced me to the fandom. So I started wearing furry avatars because I was comfortable in them. It actually got to a point where VR chat has kind of become a way for me to get out of my own skin. And one night in particular, we were playing a Truth or Dare, right? And I wanted to do a dare in this particular instance. And it was one of the ones where it has like pre-done ones, so you press the button Truth or Dare and it does one that comes up. And it said, clone an avatar of anyone's choosing. Cloning an avatar in VR chat means you take someone else's avatar and start wearing the avatar that they're using. So, one of our friends had pretty much a bunch of meme avatars, and they grabbed one that was a very weird looking baby. I know it sounds weird, but so I was forced to use that until my next turn. And I had my hands out of the way of my sight, so I forgot I was even in the Avi. And as I was going to take my next turn, I lifted up my hand to press the button. I saw the hand and immediately had a gag reflex. Not because of the baby bit, but just because it was skin. human skin, I had an actual gag reflex. And it wasn't like hyper realistic or anything. It was just tan. Like actual skin. I like VR has become such an escape for me that I actually had a gag reflex from that. It's just showing how much more comfortable I'm in furry avatars like this. Like this paw here. This is fine. But the actual human hand, I had a genuine reaction. Like it wasn't a fake gag. It was actually like a real gag. So I kind of been wearing furry avatars for the longest time, and in June, Pride Month, I finally actually came out as a furry, and doing so, I had already came out as agender at this time, so this was like maybe a week later. I came up with Saturn, the protogen, which was originally the character that I use as my PNG tuber and the character that you saw in the last Rant. The protogen with the blue stomach cavity and mostly cyan. It's a protogen moth hybrid. So that's why if you see my PNG tuber, that's why they have antennas. So it was originally Saturn the protogen. That was just the character. It wasn't me. It wasn't my name. Yet. But I'll get to that in a moment. But coming out to my mom, I was really stressed about it because I wasn't sure her opinions. She had shown me some furry-related TikToks in the past, so I knew that she knew about furries and didn't find them repulsing or disownable by any means. But I was still worried, as you would be. So, one morning, we were about to go out shopping, and before we went to go out to the car, I finally told my mom. And she literally was like, why were you worried? I literally have a wall of tails. Like she had a wall of like clip-on like tails that you could clip onto your pants and have like while you're walking around. She had a wall of those, and I just completely forgot about that. Like, she actually gave me 2 that I could use for the Pride Parade that we went to. So I actually wore some tails to a Pride Parade. But, like, she was just like, yeah, you were fine. And she's really supportive, genuinely, about it. Like, even mentioning the fact that, like, once I become 18, we got her in a car crash a little while ago. So once we became 18, there's a trust fund with $1,400 for me. And she was just like, yeah, that'll be a good amount for your fursuit. And I was like, wow, you were actually being really supportive about it. So, yeah. And now I've come, at this point in the story, I've come out as Aro-Ace, Agender, and a furry. And I mentioned earlier my mom being somewhat right with the alien joke. The fact that I am specifically a protogen. Protogens are kind of aliens. So she was technically right before she even knew that I was actually a furry. But I've been mentioning the fact that Saturn is now my actual name. This wasn't the same day, I don't think. As I came out as a furry, but it was a bit later. Not too much later. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, when I was naming Saturn, I actually picked a very gender-neutral name. Saturn. You don't really think of that as any kind of gender, because usually you're thinking of the planet. And even if you were to associate it to a name, what gender would that even be? Male? Female? None? So, I was in the car and I kind of just mentioned, if I wanted to, I could actually switch my name to that. And my mom, again, being really supportive, was like, do you want to maybe have me call you Saturn for the day and see how you feel about it? And I was like, yeah, sure. And lo and behold, I felt good. It being called Saturn, it was nice because my original name, I'm not gonna say it here, but it was kind of a mix of two different male names combined together. A rare combination that I've only seen in two people, myself and my birth father. And like that's extremely male. Apparently, according to my mom, um, some people had actually mistaken it for maybe being a girl name, but if you think about it, it's literally two male names squished together. But being called Saturn instead, embracing that agender part of myself that was very new, but still part of it, felt good. So it's become official. And I mentioned birth dad. I have a stepdad currently who is trans, another part of that now immediate family. Not originally immediate, but now I'm calling immediate. My one that I would actually call dad. He's trans, right? So, and that doesn't really matter too much. But what does matter is the fact that they were planning on, like, possibly adopting me and my siblings. Which I had asked my mom about possibly switching my last name, like my first name fully. And of course, switching your first name usually would cost money, like $150, I think, in the US or something like that. But my mom did a little bit of research, and when you get adopted, even if you're already 18, you can actually change your first name as well as your last. The last can well expected because of last name from the parent, but first name you can also change at the same time. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adopting Saturn as my first name once I'm 18. And I actually do get adopted by my birth father. Not birth father. No, not birth father. My dad. The trans one. Once I actually get adopted by him, I'm going to also take his last name as well. Take his last name, use Saturn as my actual first name now, which I'm going into astronomy for my major in college. Speaking of which, a couple weeks away from that. So, college starting. That's going to be fun. But, so Saturn's actually going to be my real name soon. No longer will it be Saturn the Protogen referring to the character Saturn the Protogen, 100% referring to me. And sure, maybe the character as well. But that, genuinely, I've had a very good experience with me coming out. And even my little siblings, I mean like 10 and 12, I didn't expect them to take the whole Saturn thing well. Which, at first, one of them didn't. My little 10-year-old brother, he's a bit emotional sometimes. He got a little stressed out by it at first, and he was crying because it was a lot to spring up on him. I didn't say it myself. Mom had yelled down for me saying Saturn, and my little siblings kind of caught on. But after I explained everything, they were both actually really supportive, especially the 12-year-old, who I didn't actually expect to even really try to call me Saturn. Everyone in the household is calling me Saturn, and they're trying their best, of course. They've been calling me the same name for my entire life, or at least my mom and sibling have. So they're getting used to it, but it was the same thing when my sibling switched their name for the first time. And only time, but when they switched their name, it was the same thing. We were getting used to it, but we're all really supportive. So they showed that same support for me and when I was switching. So I genuinely can't be thankful enough because, like I mentioned earlier, the amount of stories from people that I've heard of parents that don't try, parents that actually disown them, having to break ties with friends and family just because they came out as gay or furry or anything that wasn't normal. Again, I can sympathize, but I can't relate just because of how I was born into a very LGBT supporting family. But I'm just thankful. I've always loved my family for many reasons other than that, but just being able to feel like I can be myself in my own home is something that I'm glad I didn't have to ask for. The fact that I have such a supporting family there for me is amazing. Immediate family, anyways. I know my far out family, I don't know how they're gonna take it, but that'll be for future me to find out, and me currently just a wonder. But with that being said, I do want to wrap this up here for the night. So, thank you everyone so much for watching this episode of Saturn's Rants. I hope you enjoyed, and if you're in the closet, I do want to say one last message. If you're currently in the closet, or even just considering being LGBT or a furry or anything, just remember that those that truly love and care for you won't care. I mean, won't negatively care about you being a furry or LGBT. Of course, they'll support you if they're truly there for you, but if they don't, then, like, especially like friends, were they ever really your friends if they're not willing to support you through everything? That's one last thing in terms of me. Even my best friend was extremely cool with this name change. Haven't told him about being a furry yet, but the name change, he rocked with it. So, genuinely, if you're in the closet or considering coming out, please, unless you think your parents are, like, may actually kick you out, of course, keep your living situation stable, but if you don't know how they'll react, you'll never find out if you don't say. And as parental figures or your friends, they should be there for you. And if they're not, then, well, who were they to you? Of course, family, you don't want to cut them off, but if they're not willing to value you for who you are, then just consider maybe cutting. I'm gonna stop that. Just come out if you haven't, genuinely. Unless again, you have parents that are very, very homophobic or something. Come out. You'll be a lot less stressed afterwards. No longer having to keep it in. Just being able to wear it loud and proud. It'll get a lot of stress off your back. So, I know I can't really speak for that. Not really having that stress to begin with. but from all the stories that I've heard, being able to come out truly does help. And that whole thing about like the loved ones truly caring for you and loving you even if you come out, that whole message was a rant that I heard from one of my friends that I met recently. The first night I met them, they had this ramble about it. And that's kind of what I learned from them. If your friends aren't willing to support you where they were friends worth having. That I know it's a very hard to cut people off from being friends or cutting relationships, but if they're not willing to accept you for who you are, sometimes you have to. And with that, I think I'm actually going to leave it here for the night. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hey, future me. Future Saturn. How you doing? You doing well? I'm gonna do the usual count off here in a second for us. This world really is pretty. You better not forget about it. Genuinely. Fuck pass through. Also genuinely. Buried Precipice. By... Shit, I'm the only one. Fuck. No! No! Oh, fuck. Hi, me, you're an idiot. Like, you and I already both know that, but you're a fucking idiot. Trying to find the name of the one that made the world so you don't have to fucking go looking for it later. You know, you and I should really get more brain cells. Alright. Carl Cronin. By Carl Cronin. Alrighty. Alrighty, future me. Get ready to cut the video. And 1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone. My name is Saturn the Protogen, and welcome back to the 6th episode of Saturn's Rants. Bad start. Alright, future me, we're gonna redo that because I'm an idiot. And I need to do that. So, yeah. Yep. Alright. 3, 2, 1.